Hello everybody. Guess what? I have my glasses on, which means another reading video, even though they always flop, but I enjoy doing them. So today, to celebrate me going back to school, I'm an English major, which means I write and read a lot. We are reading the back covers to some classic literature books. So let's begin. I have my dented iPad here and a pencil to kind of trace along my images while I read. These are fairly short. There are a few that are a bit longer than others, so there's quite a few to get to. And we're starting with Pride and Prejudice. Silly Mrs. Bennet is husband hunting for her 5 daughters. Heaven knows it isn't easy. Darcy would make a great match for Elizabeth if it weren't for his false pride and her stubborn prejudice. And the other girls aren't cooperating either. Jane is too shy to show affection, and Lydia has run off with an unsuitable army officer. What's a poor mother to do? And that's that one. The next on the list is one of my personal favorites, and one I rewatched the movie to recently, The Outsiders. Ponyboy can count on his brothers and on his friends, but not on much else besides trouble with the Socs, a vicious gang of rich kids whose idea of a good time is beating up greasers like Ponyboy. At least he knows what to expect, until the night someone takes things too far. The next one is The Old Man and the Sea. For Old Man Santiago, catching the biggest marlin in the deep sea has become an obsession. But even after 84 days at sea, the deprived old man is unable to break the bad luck that seems to be following him around. While the whole village of fishermen has given up on him, it's only his young apprentice, Manolin, who supports his passion, but he too is forbidden by his parents to accompany the old man into the sea. The 85th day changes everything. Alone for the next 3 days, Santiago fights with the forces of nature and with the shortcomings brought on by his old age in search of the great catch. I'm gonna be honest, we're getting through these quite faster than I thought I would, but it's fine. The next one, forgive me if I stutter with this one, it's quite, you can see the reflection in my glasses, it's quite red. But it is The Picture of Dorian Gray. Is the price of eternal youth worth a man's soul? The exceptionally handsome Dorian Gray is a model and the muse for a young artist, Basil Hallward. Through Basil, Dorian meets Lord Henry Wotton, I definitely mispronounced those names, who values only the pleasurable things in life with no regard for morality. He makes Dorian realize that one day his famed beauty will fade and he will be left with nothing. Dorian decides to sell his soul so that a portrait of him will age in his place. As he indulges in every vice and selfish whim, his portrait grows increasingly hideous. But will he learn the true cost of his corruption in time to change his ways? This next one is another longer one, and I've never actually read the book myself. I need to, it's on my list. The Catcher in the Rye. The hero narrator of The Catcher in the Rye is an ancient child of 16, a native New Yorker named Holden Caulfield. Through circumstances that tend to preclude adult secondhand description, he leaves his prep school in Pennsylvania and goes underground in New York City for 3 days. The boy himself is at once too simple and too complex for us to make any final comment about him or his story. Perhaps the safest thing we can say about Holden is that he was born in the world not just strongly attracted to beauty, but almost hopelessly impaled on it. There are many voices in this novel, children voices, adult voices, underground voices, but Holden's voice is the most eloquent of all. Transcending his own vernacular, yet remaining marvelously faithful to it, he issues a perfectly articulated cry of mixed pain and pleasure. However, like most lovers and clowns and poets of the higher orders, he keeps most of the pain to and for himself. The pleasure he gives away or sets aside with all his heart. It is there for the reader who can handle it to keep. That one was one of the longer ones of this video. But this next one is one I remember reading in, I don't remember what grade specifically, but it was one of the older ones in elementary school. So I want to say about 4th grade was when I read this. Perhaps 5th. But it is Hatchet. 13-year-old Brian Robeson is on his way to visit his father when the single-engine plane in which he is flying crashes. Suddenly, Brian finds himself alone in the Canadian wilderness with nothing but his clothing, a tattered windbreaker, and the hatchet his mother has given him as a present, and the dreadful secret that has been tearing him apart ever since his parents' divorce. But now Brian has no time for anger, self-pity, or despair. It will take all his know-how and determination and more courage than he knew he possessed to survive. This next one is another one that I remember reading in elementary school, and it is called Moon Over Manifest. And it is another longer one. The air in Miss Sadie's parlor was hot and thick. I thought that sitting on one of those red velvety couches, chock full of fringy pillows, was probably akin to suffocating. I took a deep breath and ventured around the room. The double doors of the parlor whooshed open. A large, fleshy woman stood before me in full regalia. Her eyes were all made up. Her earrings and bracelets jangled. The sign in the window said Miss Sadie was a medium. From the look of her, I'd have said that it was a bit wishful. Thinking she hadn't seen me, I turned to make a clean getaway. "Sit down," she said, her voice thick and savory, like goulash. She put her hands flat on the table. "Let us see if today the spirits are willing to speak." Suddenly it became clear. A diviner, a medium. This woman was a fortune teller and a spirit conjurer, if you believed in that sort of thing. I barely remember the ones that I read in elementary school, but I did remember the title of Moon Over Manifest, and the title of Hatchet, and the general plot of Hatchet. The second to last one, I don't know if it counts as a classic, but I'm counting it because it might become one. It's like such a cultural thing now that like so many people know it, and it is the Song of Achilles. Achilles, the best of all the Greeks, son of the cruel sea goddess Thetis and the legendary king Peleus, is strong, swift, and beautiful, irresistible to all who meet him. Patroclus is an awkward young prince exiled from his homeland after an act of shocking violence. Brought together by chance, they forge an inseparable bond, despite risking the god's wrath. They are taught by the centaur Chiron in the arts of war and medicine, but when word comes that Helen of Sparta has been kidnapped, all the heroes of Greece are called upon to lay siege to Troy in her name. Seduced by the promise of a glorious destiny, Achilles joins their cause, and torn between love and fear for his friend, Patroclus follows. Little do they know that the cruel fates will test them both as never before and demand a terrible sacrifice. I love Song of Achilles. That's mostly why I wanted to put it. I just loved it. This next one is one that I remember reading in 6th grade. I barely remember the plot of it. And I had a physical copy. I still do. It's in storage somewhere, probably. But I wanted to do it because I had a physical copy of it. But I don't know where it is now. And this is the only one that's not from the back of a cover of the physical book. This one is from Britannica. And a little fun fact, the book is called A Separate Piece, and it's by John Knowles. And John Knowles was actually born in my home state of West Virginia. He was from Fairmont, which is about 2-ish hours away from where I'm from. But I didn't even know that until I was looking into the synopses for this video. But again, this book is called A Separate Piece. Looking back to his youth, the adult Gene Forrester reflects on his life as a student at Devon School in New Hampshire in 1942. Although he is an excellent student, he envies the athleticism and vitality of his friend Phineas, or Finney. Unable to cope with this insecurity, Forrester causes Finney to break his leg, thus sabotaging a promising athletic career. And that's all I'm going to read of that summary because the next part is spoilers. But with that is this video. I know that my reading videos are generally flops, but they're so much easier to do and they're genuinely fun, and I really enjoy watching reading ASMR, mostly as background noise for when I read. But I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next video.